What's up, nerds? Welcome back to our feature match here, Riley Knight and Corey Baumeister ready to go at it once again. Jacob Wilson versus Jean-Emmanuel Depraz. We've already called a match with Jean-Emmanuel here, but Jacob Wilson, first time you and I have seen him in the feature match area so far. Corey, what do you think of this Gruul deck, and what do you think of the Blue Splash?
Yeah, I really like the Gruul deck for this tournament. I think Gruul and Rogues were the decks that, after we saw all the decks, seemed like they had the best spot in the metagame just with what everybody else brought. And it's just hyper aggressive. It's got a good plan across the board. And the main deck Ox here is got to be what Jean-Emmanuel Depraz did not want to see, being the fact that Rogues is supposed to win that game one, right? That's supposed to be the auto win for you and then have to deal with the escape cards. Having to deal with that right away is going to be a little rough. But as I say that, I look at Jean-Emmanuel's hand and it looks insanely powerful.
I mean, Rogues always does, right? I'm very surprised to see that there is no copy of Drown in the Loch. That must be a bug. Must be a bug there. We'll get that fixed. Here is Magda Brazen Outlaw. This is a card that pairs very well with the old Rimrock Knight here, as it is a dwarf.
Yeah, nice little combo there, being able to attack with it, get that treasure, and the nice thing to be able to do with that is just have Stomp available for a blocker if Jean-Emmanuel decides to flash in one of these Thief Guild's Enforcers to block, or even just on end step, being able to kill it.
Obviously a huge flavor violation. We often see Magda in conjunction with Jasper Sentinel, age-old rivals, the elves and the dwarves, united under one purpose, apparently, to create a bunch of treasure. I don't know, man. I'm not having it. Flavor judges around the world, their ears are pricking up going, elves and dwarves? Doesn't make any sense at all. But this 1-2 punch has proved very, very powerful indeed. I mean, you can get a turn 3 dragon, which makes it even more of a flavor violation. Elves and dwarves summoning dragons? My goodness. Jay, if you hooked up a dynamo to J.R.R. Tolkien's grave right now, he'd be spinning so fast that he could power a small city.
Yeah, absolutely. You may be trying to figure out all the flavors. I just want to be attacking with it, figuring out how much power it's going to to but different strokes.
All right, Ben Stark. What, you want to take all the art and pictures and just numbers and letters? That's all Corey wants on a Magic card.
You got me. You got me, Riley.
All right, we're going to see the dwarf taken out here by a Thieves Guild Enforcer. Second one are going to come in and get a benefit from the triggered ability. No, you talked about this Stomp being live, Corey, and I think it's probably going to be played here. Wilson's taking his time with it, but ultimately decides to stomp away that first TGE.
Yeah, taking this one out so that your 4-1 lives here to be able to attack next turn. It's a little bit of a cost here when you're not playing Jaspera Sentinel, and now we do not have Azeka's Chariot completely tied up next turn. But, still going to be a very strong play.
I'm sure exactly what's happened here.
Might have teleported a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like we've entered the entered some kind of dungeon dimension here. I'm not exactly sure. We're going to get production to figure out exactly what's happened here, as we seem to have jumped into a different game. So we are going to bring it back to the booth here while we figure out exactly what was going on. I do apologise there for the short gap in the programming, but Corey gives us a chance to talk about these two decks, and in particular Gruul, which I guess, look, we've seen Bone Crusher Giant around a long time. It's been one of the best cards in one of the best decks for a long time, the Gruul Adventures list.
Yeah.
New upgrades or new inclusions with Magda, obviously, out of Kaldheim. I mean, I say new. This was an iteration on the old Gruul Adventures deck, much sort of put forward by Raph Levy, who was a huge proponent of Jasper Sentinel into Magda. As we head towards rotation, losing cards like losing the adventure package, losing the Bone Crusher Giants, the Age of Innkeepers, Jasper Sentinel and Magda, are these cards that we can still look to build around post rotation?
I think so, and I don't know about you, Riley, but looking at some of the preview cards from the last few days, even the preview card that I spoiled a little earlier today, there are some good Gruul cards. So even though we may be losing the adventure package, there is some powerhouses coming for all you Gruul beatdown players, and I'm pretty excited. I want to cast Arlen. I want to cast that on turn 3. Midnight Hunt looks awesome. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I've been keeping a close eye on a lot of the cards that have been announced so far, and look, it looks to be, certainly we've had a pretty pushed power level with a lot of what's been going on in Standard recently, and I know a lot of players around the world are keen for that to change. But Innistrad at the moment seems to be aimed at a pretty palatable mark. These cards seem powerful without being pushed. They seem like they're going to do cool things without warping a format completely around them. So I don't know, man. And then again, back to Innistrad. Always, it's where my Magic career began, and I'm thrilled to be back once again on.
So naturally, you're going to make a nice song about whatever your preview card is, right? Like we got that to look forward to.
Man.
I mean, now you're forced into doing it. Right?
Okay. You got the email, right? Like, we get emails. They're like, hey, do you want to preview a card? We're like, yeah, sure. And they're like, all right, you can't talk about the card before the preview. You can't even say what color it is, anything else like that. Right?
Yep.
I'm going to toe the line with that rule and say that my card... Listen, I tweeted earlier in the week about, like, what are the grossest cards that have ever been printed, all right?
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. I wanted a catalog of some of the grossest looking cards you've ever seen so I could... put the energy that I needed into that song that'll be coming out on Tuesday, twitch.tv/Riley, and I get across it anyway.
Your album's dropping soon, huh?
Oh yeah, with all my little 30-second preview card songs. This song will drive you mad. Rides again, Corey. All right, looks like we've got things sorted out. We're back on the ground here with that. We've got our dwarves getting ready here. Getting ready to rumble once again against a Crab and a TGE. Thieves Guild Enforcer number 2 after the first one was stomped away. Still a third one in the hand here for the Frenchman.
Yeah, Jean-Emmanuel had that kind of classic draw that is one of the most scary things that you have to look for from Rogues, and that's just Thieves Guild Enforcer into double Thieves Guild Enforcer. Didn't really have the mana agree in the proper way to do it, but still a very powerful draw. The one thing that this draw is pretty weak to is Azeka's Chariot. That is the card that Jean-Emmanuel Depraz does not want to see, and the card that Jacob Wilson in our pre-match chat was saying, this is the most important thing outside of the escape cards in this matchup. And as it stands right now, it's clear for takeoff. So we'll see if Jacob Wilson wants to go for it.
All right. We're going to see Thieves Guild Enforcer trade with that Rimrock Knight. And down comes the Seeker's Chariot, second main phase, and it's going to resolve. That's huge.
Yeah, no fear, just going for it right now. Everybody thinks there's a Drown on the Loch in the hand for Jean-Emmanuel Depraz. Takes the risk that it's not there, and it's really going to pay off. Get to make another treasure with Magda here at end step to have a ton of mana available, and there it is, right on time. That's
just
what we
rub
needed.
Some salt in the wound there. Which disdainful stroke? Well,
not this one.
A disdainful stroke is never late, Frodo Baggins. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. Well, it would have been nice if you'd meant to, just a little bit earlier here as we see the cats get in. And the reason for this, of course, is that the... excuse me, no. We're seeing... Magda used to cry.
Just end step crew,
get
another treasure. Yep.
Excuse me. Yeah, that makes sense. Because Magda doesn't care about attacking, right? You can just tap it however you like with Jasper Sentinel or whatever else, and it'll still pop out a treasure.
Exactly. And I mean, we're a few treasures away from just slamming a Goldspan Dragon as that kind of free value. Whenever you get a free, one of the best 5-drops in Standard, if not the best one, just for free off your 2-drop that's already ramping you, it's just incredible right now.
We've seen stuff like turn 3 Goldspan Dragons, thanks to Magda. Attack and a block, Rimrock Knight. No, Embercleave, excuse me. But that's going to meet with a disdainful stroke. Ember will not be cloven this time around.
Keeping those crabs alive, very important.
Sorry, thought deep off the top. Another crab in hand here for Depraz, but it's not doing a whole lot. Also the option to put Lurrus in hand.
And we even saw Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, I believe last turn, not play that crab and get max value out of it. Maybe a little wary of that one Ox, just knowing if that card flips over, like, it is going to be very, very tough for Jean-Emmanuel to win this game. And kind of got to line up enough power to just make it, lethal on the battlefield and make sure you're pressuring, and then be okay with flipping over Ox. But if that Ox flips over in this stage of the game, it's going to be devastating.
All right, here is a Ranger class. Makes a wolf. and immediately levels up as well. Ranger class, one of the more powerful and certainly one of the more aggressive class cards.
Yeah, if anybody was watching last match, you can safely say that is one of the most powerful cards here out of Adventures in the Forgotten Realm, because that was ridiculous. That card was going off.
And now Magda's getting in here. Going to make some treasure, and we've got a Ranger class trigger as well. Which class speaks to you, Corey? I know that you only care about the nuts and bolts, the numbers, and all that sort of stuff. But which of the class cards speaks to you, mate?
You know, it is a boring answer, but Ranger class to me, I think, is the most powerful card. So I stand to like that one the most. I love these green mid-range decks, just the way they are now. But Bard class is awesome as well. Being able to assemble some legends and stuff, that card probably has the highest ceiling. It can be unreal. I
could see you playing a Bard in D&D. I could for sure see that. Yeah. There's a lot of Corey energy wrapped up in Bard class. Just going around, having a chat with people, always got a smile on your face. Little halfling Bard, Corey Baumeister.
You know, I think that applies to me, but I can't say I've played a lot of D&D in my life.
I could see that. Like, Lightfoot halfling, just charisma, like infinite charisma.
Well, you're nailing it so far. That sounds like me.
Yeah, because you are only 3 feet tall as well, so it's perfect.
I'm very short, absolutely.
Very
Someone's got to even out the martial height, you know? I mean, we can't all be as tall.
Yeah, there's a strict cumulative height cap in the coverage team. Exactly right. So that's why Corey's here. Anyway, we're going to see some blocks lined up here from Depraz. Wilson is doing a good job of staying aggressive, but I tell you what, these crabs, they're doing a good job of shoring up the life total of Depraz here.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to just make sure that you're not taking these big swings. This Ranger class, though, getting these creatures all into 3 power, though, is going to be a big problem turn after turn. You know, we got Luris to be able to bring some stuff back. Fabled Passage to mill 6 more cards. And we'll do a library check here because it sure does not look like Jean-Emmanuel is winning this game via damage so far. It seems like the mill plan is a lot higher upside here. And it looks like Jean-Emmanuel is like really contemplating, do I do it now? And risk that Ox of Agonis being played, and decides to go for it.
All right, Ruined Crab. Mills another 6 cards between the two of them.
Oh. That was a really good draw, actually. If you get a Thieves Guild Enforcer back, you got the 1-mana Divination unlocked here. Yeah, depending on how many... Oh, that Fabled Passage could be huge, depending on how many cards we have.
Another fetch land here, yeah. Wow. Last time I checked, there were 24 up to 30, so this will be around 36 cards in the graveyard, roughly. So
okay.
From there, yeah, it looks like that was 36 cards in the graveyard. We can roughly figure out from that there are probably around, what?
There's the Ox.
15-ish cards left.
Okay. Yeah, right now, this is looking pretty tough for Jacob to actually close off in time unless we can find, like, another Ember Cleave. And, yeah, there's one of the Cleaves... trying to look to see how many we have. Those, you have 3 Cleaves. We're going to be able to get up to a 3rd treasure, 4th on Jacob's turn. So getting close to being able to just put it into play. And that's what Jean-Emmanuel is doing right now as well. Just saying, well, what's left? What can you draw? There's 2 Ember Cleaves. Yep, there's 1 still in the deck. So that's huge. And 1 Gold Span Dragon. So it looks like there is... 1 more of those as well, so still has a choice between the treasures if we can accumulate 5.
It's not too often that we see the secret mode, the flavor text mode on Magda activated, but I'll tell you what, it's pretty good when it happens. Any dragon, any artifact gets put straight onto the battlefield, not into your hand.
Yep, and this is actually a pretty big deal. Magda was already tapped, so not being able to make it 3 treasures, like I was saying, at end step, so still a few turns away from it. Probably going to just have to, a few turns too late.
May not have a few turns, particularly with Luris Windrobber here. Gives you an extra chance to draw the land you need, which is another 6 cards. And I think 1 more land is probably going to do it for milling out what remains of Wilson's library here. My guess. Yeah, I don't have a firm count, but that's my guess.
Yeah, that's definitely getting close. And if we don't see this Ox come back this turn, we can keep in mind that the Hive is still ready and waiting to clear it out. But at this point, the Ox is starting to be close to a liability, right?
Yeah.
Drawing cards when it's this late in the game, well, that just makes it even closer to losing. So that's probably a pretty big draw.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. Drawing a land there, milling 6 cards. That's going to empty out the library. Yeah, Jacob Wilson goes down in game number 1. Jean-Emmanuel Depraz. We talked about the fact that the Ruin Crabs might come back to bite the Frenchman on the bum here in milling over that Ox, but the timing ended up working out very nicely indeed for him because it resulted in Jacob Wilson running out of time. That's all it was, running out of time. Wasn't aggressive enough, didn't get the damage across, and at the end of the day, Jean-Emmanuel Depraz taking that turbo mill route to victory and getting a well-deserved game 1 win. You can see things in game number 2 are going to change a little bit. Out comes Embercleave, out comes Esika's Chariot. These are the big clunky cards that Wilson probably can't afford to play. Another Ox, Magic Missile, open up that 2-for-1 potential, and Clothis as well, a great way to manage graveyards. On the other side of things, we're not the mill plan anymore. Out come the Ruin Crabs, trimming some other cards for some more interaction and some sweepers.
Yep, absolutely. Trying to be more of the control deck. And looking back to last game, we talked about how Disdainful Stroke, we kind of joked that it was, a little late when that Chariot came into play. It was actually perfectly on time because if it was in the hand, Jean-Emmanuel Depraz would have countered that Esika's Chariot, and then that Embercleave off the top would have won that game. So, in hindsight, that Disdainful Stroke was at the perfect spot in the library to allow Jean-Emmanuel to take that game.
Yeah, so the top of the deck looking after Jean-Emmanuel at the end of the day.
Yep.
It's interesting. All right, so Thieves Guild Enforcer opening up the game for Depraz. On the other side of things, we have a token from a Heart's Desire and a Wolf from a Ranger class. Bravely
just going to
unafraid of
town
cliche, this Ranger's class picking a Wolf as its animal companion. Corey, what would your animal companion be if you were a Ranger?
Bird Serpent, I guess. I'll tell
you this: you can have a bird or a serpent because you can only have you can't like I think it's a challenge rating of 1, might even be a half for a level 1 ranger. So you can have a bird or a serpent. Maybe at later levels you can get a bird serpent, but you have to pick.
All right, give me a bird. Let's fly away, I suppose.
All right,
really challenging me on these D&D facts, huh?
At some point later on, you can like sticky tape a snake to it and call it Yorion. There you go.
I like it. It.
Very good. All right. Excellent. We see the Thieves Guild Enforcer here. Well, I mean, you can attack with it. It'll get in, as we see Wilson not willing to trade it off against the 1/1, which will keep his Love-Struck Beast able to attack. And it's going to turn into a 2/2 now, thanks to that Ranger class, which has been leveled up.
Yeah, pretty interesting to offer the trade there with the Thieves Guild Enforcer. Normally you want to be hanging on to those, but with Ranger class being able to pump the creatures, it is a lot more incentivizing to be able to deal with the creatures before they can get to combat.
And a decent hand here by the look of things for Depraz, although he does need a little light on removal at this point. It's nice to see the Disdainful Stroke to keep back things like that Goldspan Dragon, but needs a way to deal with the board that Wilson has slowly put together. In particular, that Ranger class threatens to unload a lot of damage, actually.
Yeah, we were supposed to have that annul a little bit earlier to deal with that, but no such luck. And now Jean-Emmanuel Depraz is just saying, please cast Embercleave this turn. Please give me a target for annul. Or Chariot.
Bone Crusher Giant going to stomp out that TGE. And that was the reason that we saw a rather tame turn. Another Ranger class here.
Wow. And
a Null is here to ruin the day. So Depraz getting something. I mean, it makes sense. You can't. So for those, if you, Corey, I imagine you don't know this, but in D&D you can take more than one class. Like you can be a Ranger/Rogue or Ranger/Fighter or whatever, but you can't take the same class twice. Like that doesn't make any sense at all. So Depraz, obviously a D&D nerd here, being like, you don't get to you can't be a double Ranger, mate. That doesn't work.
Well, with that thought process, Ranger class should have been legendary then, right? Isn't that the flavor fail from the beginning?
From a flavor perspective, the classes being legendary would have made a lot of sense, right? Because
right,
then you wouldn't be able to be a double Ranger. Like that would have been pleasing. They obviously decided not to do that for whatever reason. But had it been that way, I would have issued a deep grunt of satisfaction. That would have been great.
We'll get you on the case for the next flavor set, huh?
Wow, interestingly, Jean-Emmanuel Depraz in the chat right now and saying definitely counted it for flavor purposes. Jean-Emmanuel Depraz, what are you doing in the chat? Focus on the game, mate. How could you? How could you?
Multitasking. Yeah, and Jean-Emmanuel took a little bit of a risk there, hoping that there was not a piece of removal that cost 3 or less, so that Disdainful Stroke would have been live. That was about the worst possible, is Magic Missile there or Stomp to be able to deal with Lurrus without getting any value. You know, we've kind of been stressing this whole time that Lurrus, you really want to at least get some value when you play it, and that turn didn't work out the way Jean-Emmanuel Depraz wanted to, I assume.
No, you wouldn't have thought so here. Another Thieves Guild Enforcer here for the Frenchman. There's a couple of other cards. Still hasn't hit that threshold. Another land. Does have triple black, I should say. What's his play here? Cling to Dust, Agadeem's Awakening, the options now. Can hold up Disdainful Stroke in case another land comes down, or the Jasper Sentinel gets tapped for mana. What do you think? What does Depraz do in this situation?
So far, Agadeem's Awakening is not just the catch-all, be-all where you get 1 through 3. I don't think we've seen a Soaring Thought Thief in there. It looks like you could get Lurrus plus Thieves Guild Enforcer. So that's not super appealing. I think you probably just want to cling to try to find some more interaction. Maybe try to find an Into the Story if we're getting close to that threshold of 7 cards. But yeah, this is a bit of a tough turn. Maybe you just have to go for this. But now we're opening the door.
It's not terrible here. Getting back Lurrus is obviously a huge game. Like if your Agadeem's Awakening doesn't get back your Lurrus, you always feel like you've been robbed here. But this turns on the TGEs. They're now Death Touch 3/2s, so that's going to make a difference in this matchup. But agony for Wilson as he finds a tap land. That means the Goldspan Dragon has to come in with the Jasper Sentinel tapping the human 4/4. But Consolation Prize Dragon coming across as a 5/5, putting JED to potentially DED here. Cling to Dust can gain a little bit of life, but this is too little too late in the face of this enormous dragon. On a healthy 19, even an attack for 9 with 3 lifelink isn't going to do it. Can Depraz survive with Lurrus plus Cling? Is that enough to? Is that enough life?
6, going up to 8. It depends on what we attack with. There is a Den up there as well, so Den can get active. We can put a counter on, let's say, Jaspera Sentinel. Then you take 6, or you take 5 there. You can block 2 of the biggest creatures, and you still take 8. I'm counting exactly 8 on the crackback if that's the only play. But I guess we do have the Hive as well to be able to block. So it looks like Jean-Emmanuel can survive. But yeah, I mean, this was really the cost, right, for the Agadeem's Awakening. Bringing back Lurrus, bringing back Thieves Guild Enforcer, that's great and all, but it did open the door for Goldspan Dragon, and Jacob Wilson used that opportunity to just slam it, and it's a really tough threat to deal with right now, especially with a counter on it, so it can't get power word killed, and it can't get Heartless Act. Like, that is really, really going to be tough here. I guess you just need Drawn in the Lock.
And I think Klothys here is going to put this thing beyond any contention. Klothys, of course, is a very difficult clock to race, especially when you're at a low life total. She'll clean you up, and an Ox of Agonis as well, just to really seal the deal here. Disdainful Stroke is a stopgap measure against this escape creature. This means that the Hive can't be activated alongside the Cling to Dust. The Cling to Dust must be cast.
Yeah, the one nice thing about that is casting that Ox pre-combat is the fact that you get to cling an Ox. You already had to cling a creature, so you get a little bit of value here. So that's some good news for Jean-Emmanuel. It's not looking good or anything by any means, but that was a chance.
Okay, so eating up that creature, gaining a little bit of life, staying at 2 life here, but finding Fabled Passage off the top.
Yeah, and we are so close. I mean, we have 12 damage from Jean-Emmanuel Depraz here with a Hive, but 12 is not 16, and now we just have to figure out, okay, how can you stop Klothys? How can you gain enough life to get out of Klothys range, but then simultaneously dealing with Goldspan Dragon? It doesn't seem like it's possible. We really needed something like Into the Story, into maybe another Cling, and Drawn in the Lock. Like, really needed a big draw like that. Looking pretty tough as it stands.
With the Cling, I don't think you can activate the Hive anymore.
Yep.
Oh, wait, you could... No, you can activate Hive block and then cast Cling to gain life. That puts you back up to 8. Or is it not enough, not enough mana?
I think we have to Cling into a non-creature and draw Drown in the Lock exactly to deal with Goldspan Dragon now that we're at 5.
Right.
And the interesting interaction here with Klothys is you don't really want to target anything of Jean-Emmanuel's, just because in response, you do this Cling. Now, Jacob Wilson just wants to force the hand here, it seems, but this Klothys will not be doing any draining because it will be a different Cling once it goes back to the graveyard.
But now you can't activate the Hive, and so this reduces the number of outs that Depraz has because the attack... The attack with the
den.
The den of the bugbear makes it so much more difficult here, yeah. So Cling to Dust. Targeting... What's that on the other side of the battlefield there?
Has to find Drown in the Loch.
Finds Crippling Fear. No, not enough. Wouldn't be enough even if you could cast it.
Yep.
And I think with a Den of the Bugbear activation here...
Yeah, even just Goldspan Dragon is enough to just send it in here.
Oh, true.
Since
There's
it
no
doesn't
flying
look like.
Of course,
yep,
yeah.
Exactly.
And the Shadow Skull Smashing just to really stamp your authority here. Jacob Wilson takes it down in game number 2 and ties things up here. Nice and even between these two players. Gruul Adventures gets the job done.
That was really a product of Jean-Emmanuel Depraz just needed something to get ahead on cards. Just never saw into the story here, really, in either of these games. Just really needed something to get that critical mass of cards. And Jacob Wilson just did a great job of picking them apart with these escape creatures, with that timely magic missile. That was extremely good. And then just being patient with Goldspan Dragon and waiting for the spot where Jean-Emmanuel tapped out and then just, bang, got in there. This happened really nice.
A really tough spot for Depraz as well in that situation there. That was a turn where it could have broken either way. Neither option or none of the options that he had felt fantastic. And I think he probably just took a punt on the least worst option and hoped that it work out, and it worked out. And at the end of the day, Wilson just full of pressure and able to get over the line comfortably. Edgewall Innkeeper on turn number 1 is going to be met with a Thieves Guild Enforcer. Oh, and immediately milling an Ox Orgonis off the top. Nice one. Really nice for the Canadian here.
Yeah, Jacob is pretty happy with that. And I want to remind everyone, we got a record of 5-1 and 4-2. We are starting to get pretty late into this event here. 9 wins is that magic number, so these players are really starting to have their sights set on that top 8. So really, really getting to be some big matches. Now we got a tough choice. Do we want to just play a land and Drown in the Loch this Edgewall Innkeeper right away, just in case there is a Rimrock Knight, to be able to draw a card right away? I think you're priced into doing so. But Drown in the Loch, we just saw just being, the most important card in this matchup to deal with some of the bigger threats as well as some of the early drops.
Well,
so
we may bolt the bird, but we don't drown the Innkeeper here, and it draws a card off of the Rimrock Knight. Oh, we're going to drown it now, are we? Potentially going for the 3-1 instead. No, it is going to be the Innkeeper here. So Depraz wanted to keep his options open, get a little more information, but loses he's a card down as a result of it here.
Yeah, kind of the feels bad. It's be like, all right, you got me. You got that card out of it, but not much that Jean-Emmanuel could have done there.
And that's why we put a null into the deck, obviously, so we can scry to the bottom. Very good stuff. Smart stuff from there from Depraz. That's why I put bad cards in my deck, so I can discard them to my opponent's mind draw, Stomp from Bone Crusher Giant gets rid of TGE. We're going to have the Rimrock Knight cleared for landing here. Across it comes. And Wilson also hitting his land drops comfortably, working towards that Goldspan Dragon. Depraz takes a turn off to put the Lurrus in hand. He's got nothing else to do. Plays an Agadeem's Awakening as a land. Crypt of Agadeem.
Yeah, Wilson's draw is not super exciting so far either, but still enough to do on curve. And with that Ox looming, it really, strangles what Depraz can actually be doing here. That was a pretty good draw.
A nice crippling fear here. Now, the real test for Depraz is what does he name with crippling fear? Now, Corey, if you just want it to be a sweeper, what do you name? What's your default
Uncle
name?
Esteban.
Well, I don't think that's a creature type anymore. It's not 1997, mate.
Yeah.
So, no.
Yeah.
Hamster, very strong choice there from Depraz.
Nice.
Very strong choice. We do love to see that. This is a bloke who knows what he's doing when it comes to a crippling fear. Other strong names, Egg, Coward, Sand.
Yeah. Yeah, Coward's a good one, that's for sure. Thank God Minsk was not on the other side, otherwise that would have been quite
very embarrassing. Would have been very, very embarrassing for the Depraz there. But now Aluris, that can immediately bring back a TGE. There's a couple of Thieves Guild Enforcers in the bin.
It is still looking so rough here. Now if we even get to the point where into the story, you can bring back, I guess it is kind of that perfect number right now. I think it was at 7, so we're not able to bring back Oct yet, but we can still cast into the story, so that is decent here. Unless this Shatter Skull Smashing puts it to that critical max where Ox can come back, then the game is just over. It looks like we're still one short.
Yeah. So this is that weird Tarmogoyf rule, right? So for those of you who don't know, this is very, very complicated, and I'll do my best to explain it.
Yeah.
Basically, if there's a card that its power and toughness relies on stuff being in the graveyard, and the card that would kill it.
Oh, but look at this. But
is part of being put in the graveyard, right?
Look at this though, Riley. Sorry to interrupt. This Shatter Skull Smashing for 1 more to be able to kill this. This is actually genius. I think Jacob did this on purpose because now Shatter Skull for 1 unlocks Ox, and now how on earth can you win? I think this was just a big brain play by Jacob instead of a misclick here.
Oh, really? He's just doing it on purpose?
Because I mean, I guess you can just Shatter Skull Smashing your own Ox. No, it is opponents, isn't it?
Well,
so yeah, I think that was just an incredible play.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, the rule that I was trying to explain still stands, but if that was the way that he was doing it, Jacob Wilson is going to have a hard time walking out of that door he's in because his brain is so large, he's not going to get it through the door frame. An incredible win there for the Canadian.